This is Henry of Skalitz, son of a blacksmith. Some of you may know him as the wholesome young man who loves his mum and obeys his father. His hobbies include helping others with chores and picking flowers. But like all kids, he's easily influenced by his friends. Peer pressure can infect even the most wholesome among us. Under the pretense of defending the honor of their king, the boys set off to cause some mischief. Deutsche, a local wealthy German, was the target. So Henry grabbed a handful of and...
What are you waiting for, soldier? Fire the trebuchet!
But Deutsche caught wind of the redecoration and confronted the group. Words were exchanged, turds smashed into faces, and tempers quickly flared. Henry had never been in a fight before, but taking a punch to the face made him snap. He lashed out at everyone nearby, mercilessly pummeling them into a bloody pulp. The only thing that saved those men from Henry's wrath was the catchpole, who showed up and ran the boys off. After the adrenaline had worn off, he rushed home to see his mother.
Ma? Ma, I'm hurt. Won't stop bleeding.
I guess he was still the wholesome kid from earlier. Later that day, while on a stroll, he couldn't get the voices out of his head, taunting him, flashing back to being punched in the face. They say an early indicator of psychopathy is harming animals, and harm animals Henry did. He punched one cow, then another. He couldn't stop. The poor beast was chased into a corner, then hit and hit and hit until it could stand no longer. Henry was changing. It wasn't just the fist fights and picking on animals. He also harassed the local ladies and learned how to be a professional thief thanks to Fritz. Henry wasn't about to start stealing things though. His father had asked him to fetch some things lent to another local. When the man refused to give them back, Henry took it upon himself to steal them back. Picking locks came naturally and he easily opened the chest. Once again, things began to spiral for Henry. He got a taste for theft and began stealing from other houses. Food, money, alcohol. It didn't matter what it was. Simply taking things that didn't belong to him was enough of a high. Henry was a lock-picking machine and no chest was safe as long as he had lockpicks on him. And then it happened. Like the dozens of times before, Henry snuck into an empty house. Hey! Only this time, it wasn't empty. The shout sent Henry scrambling for the door. Once outside, he thought he was clear, but Baron had other ideas. Henry searched for a place to hide, but Baron wasn't letting him off so easily. Henry hopped a fence and ducked into some bushes. Then the thought creeped into his head. What if he tells my parents? I can't let that happen. So Henry stalked his prey, waiting for his chance to strike. As Baron calmly walked back to his house, Henry sprang from behind and applied a blood choke. Within seconds, Baron's limp body was on his shoulders. Henry hadn't thought this far ahead though. What if he rats when he comes to? No, we can't allow that, the voice in his head said. So he dumped the limp body in a bush, raised his leg as high as he could go, and came down with a thunderous crunch, smashing Baron's skull in half. There was no coming back from this one. And since dead men need no belongings, Henry took what he wanted and went back home. Some time had passed, and Henry couldn't get Baron out of his mind. It's not that he felt guilty about it, no. He wanted more, much like an itch that can only be ignored for so long. On his way to pick up ale for his father, he spotted his next victim, choked him unconscious, carried him to a secluded area, and experimented with a new method of execution, this time snapping his neck. What a rush! Henry wanted more, so he sprinted to the nearest home. Male, female, young, old, it didn't matter, as long as they were alone and had a nearby place to hide the body. Henry even learned the art of deception, pretending to pick herbs so as not to draw attention, letting them pass, and then catching them off guard. Henry's appetite was growing. He didn't want to pick on women and old men his whole life. He wanted a real challenge, a soldier. At the west gate stood a single guard. With nobody around to witness, he snuck up, hugged the man, and carried him off. These towers hadn't been used in years, he thought. Nobody will walk by here. With one mighty stomp, the guard was extinguished, and Henry felt a sense of pride, accomplishment even. But it wasn't enough. He rushed outside and attacked the first person he came across, choking him out, dumping the body in the nearby bush, and stomping his face in. Henry could not be stopped. Victim after victim fell to his addiction. He was becoming impatient though, attacking people in broad daylight with others nearby. At least he had the common courtesy of dumping the body out of sight. Desperate for more carnage, he even choked out a guard only feet away from a lady walking by. Luckily, she was singing too loudly to hear the death happening just behind her. But this tower was in the middle of the town, and many people walked by it daily. Oh no, he thought, not you, Fritz. Just walk away, don't do it. His best friend had discovered his recent handiwork, all but sealing his fate. Then it occurred to Henry, if the town has no more guards left, there'll be nobody to enforce the laws. There won't be any need to hide his sickness, so he set out to accomplish this grim task, felling one guard after another. But there was a problem. Some guards were patrolling heavily populated parts of town, so Henry devised a plan to draw them away. He started by killing this poor soul on his way back home. But that was just the start. He went to the man's house and found the wife home alone. He choked her unconscious and stomped her life out. Minutes later, the husband's body was discovered, which led the guards to investigate the house and find the wife as well. Henry mustered all of his acting skills, pretending to be completely shocked at the butchery in front of him. And with no further clues to go off of, the guards sheathed their weapons and went back to their post. Except this one decided to daydream for a moment too long. His final mistake. Henry placed his neck in the crook of his arm, roughly palmed the man's balding head, and lowered the sleeping body to the floor. The other guard was nearby but didn't seem to care. Perhaps they had an ongoing feud? Either way, with a single twist of the neck, Henry sent the man to heaven. Panic took over the town. People ran to and fro, shouting about the dead body they had just seen. Henry took the dagger from the dead guard and decided to test it out on this unsuspecting man. The increased efficiency was incredible, dispatching his soul in a single, quick stab. Hold on, he thought. Not yet. He pulled the reins back and got to work on the guards once more. The catchpole was crossing the street right in front of him. Perfect. Not that Henry needed justification for his actions, or at least not in his eyes, but if one man truly deserved to be snuffed out, it was the catchpole. Henry followed him through the busy tavern, glancing behind one last time, and then struck. A swift stab to the side of the neck, and it was all over. "You got what you deserved, you bastard," Henry said. The next sequence of events were not at all planned, but Henry immediately knew how to take advantage of them. The guards from the top of the hill had been summoned to investigate Henry's handiwork in the town. It would only be a matter of time before they returned, making them easy targets on their return trip. But in the meantime, his itch needed to be satisfied, so he struck again, taking out a merchant. "It's the bastard Kanesh." Shame he saw the body and called for the guards before he took the dagger to the neck as well. "I wonder what father would think of me if he knew I was the serial killer," Henry pondered. Things settled down a bit and the guards finally returned from their investigation. It was time to dispatch the last two in the town. Yaroslav was a bit more portly and walked slower, making him an easy target. His chainmail coif couldn't protect him from Henry's fury, easily piercing his carotid artery. The problem was Yannick, the other guard, didn't see the struggle and was steadfast about remaining at his post. But worry not, Henry always has a plan. While it's illegal to carry a body around and can land you in prison, there's no such law about kicking them around. Henry had invented his own sport, corpse football. Like any new game, there's a bit of a learning curve. He needed to get the body to the top of the hill in sight of his friend, but the body was not cooperating, getting stuck on the ground, posts, going under the fence, and generally being a massive annoyance. Like in football, it's illegal to handle the body with your hands, but Henry was far enough away to not get caught. With the body now in prime position, Henry switched into striker mode. He developed a new technique called the spread eagle arse pounding, or SAP for short. He SAP'd his way up the hill, enough for Yannick to take notice. The plan had worked like a charm. Now he could strike from behind unseen. Oh crap, Yannick slipped the chokehold and the fight was on. Only this time, there was no catchpole to stop the brawl, and to lose meant certain death. The struggle went back and forth for several minutes, culminating in a 4-punch combination that even Conor McGregor would have been proud of. Yannick slumped to the floor, making Henry's task trivial. Now Henry could finally scratch his itch with impunity. There were no guards to stop him. He killed and killed, but like all addictions, he needed more and more scratches each time to get the same level of satisfaction. It wasn't thrilling to simply kill anymore. Now he wanted to make art out of his handiwork. His canvas? The back room of these common folks' home. Skillfully, he adjusted his subjects into position. This one he called Tasting the Forbidden Taint. "Wait a minute, this one's still alive," he exclaimed. It's not true art unless both subjects are eternally sleeping. So he repositioned the bodies, and like Bob Ross would say, there are no mistakes, only happy little accidents. Husband and wife intertwined beautifully forever. Henry took the fee for his work and moved on. With only a handful of people left alive in the town, Henry did his best to savor those special moments. With no guards
Back
left,
trouble?
he didn't need to sneak about or isolate people, but it was the sport of it that kept him interested. Such are the inner workings of a true psychopath. He kicked corpses down the hill, causing people to flee in panic and snuff them out when they were alone. Then he met his most determined adversary, the Deutsch's wife, who refused to stop stitching and leave her seat. Even with the body inches away from her, she held her ground, committed to finishing her cat meme cross-stitch project. But Henry persisted, eventually causing her to crack and run. She took a dagger to the upper chest, let out a final gasp, and slumped to the floor. He continued pushing bodies through the street, chasing people who fled and knifing them down. Slowly, the town bled its inhabitants, leaving only those with plot armor to live. In the end, there was nothing left for Henry to do but sharpen the weapons he stole from the bodies and prepare for the next leg of his adventure. He spoke to his father for the last time and rushed out of the city. As he ran down the hill and away from the invading Cuban army, he reflected on all that had happened. Sure, he had accomplished a lot, slaughtering an entire town by himself, taking everything of value and becoming wealthy, but the thing he was most proud of, depriving those vile Cuman of the satisfaction of slaughtering innocent people. That pleasure was reserved for Henry and Henry alone. If you want to see more Kingdom Come Deliverance content, click this video right here where I try to beat the game on hardcore mode with all negative perks selected in one life. Death means the save file is deleted and the run ends. Let me know if you'd like to see more story-based content like this in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.